Your Dallas Stars have an off day this evening. Tomorrow, they'll be at the barn at the AAC taking on the Pittsburgh Penguins, looking to make it 3 in a row. And in order to talk a little bit more about your Dallas Stars, we welcome on the host of the Spits and Suds podcast, wherever you can get that, wherever you get your podcasts. You might know him. We call him the boss man around here. His name is Gavin Spittle, the hockey hawk. Spittle, what's happening, my man?
What's up, boys? How are you?
Doing good, man. I like that microphone right there. That's a professional grade one.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, they set me up pretty good.
Yeah.
This is the audio quality that you'll get, if not better, on the Spits and Suds podcast. And I want to start here. Obviously, this Dallas Stars team, the big thing that people were looking at was the defense, trying to fortify the defense, particularly at the trade deadline. You add Chris Tanev, and it feels like Thomas Harley has been playing really well. Those two guys have helped a couple of defensive pairings. Like, what has been the big shift in those guys' play and in the defense for the Stars from the trade deadline to this point?
Well, I think when you look at Tanev, you look at calmness, and he really has done a nice job as far as a great example is last night. One of the Arizona Coyotes was coming down the left wing, and he just had his stick out in front so he wouldn't trip the Coyote. At the same time, he was just gently rubbing him with his body enough to move him away from Oettinger. And it was a simplistic play on the surface, but at the same time, it was perfect defensive alignment and positioning. And it's those little things that I think some of this, might be missing. And what is so great is that you have him on a second line defensive pairing with Esa Lindell.
Mm-hmm.
What that does is it moves a guy like Ryan Suter, who's 38, 39 years old. All of a sudden, he moves down to a third pairing. And I've always said Ryan Suter as a third pairing defenseman is a very effective defenseman. And so everyone moves down, and that provides more depth. So I think Tanev has really solidified the defense, and you can let players like Heiskanen and Thomas Harley cook now because they know that they're better and they have better players behind them.
And I mean, also with the addition of Tanev, how much does that help Miro Heiskanen? Because it feels like Miro has had to do so much, being kind of the defenseman that you think of, the defenseman that you immediately go to as the dude who cleans things up. And now that you have Tanev there to do a little bit more of that, like how much does that help him be as spry, as good as you want him to be?
I actually thought that Tanev should team up with Heiskanen because that would move Heiskanen to what's called his strong side.
Yep. Yeah.
And the best way to describe that for Stars fans and for non-hockey fans is basically, take a stick and put it in front of you. And just imagine that stick on your strong side would be the hand that you shoot with. Otherwise, you're basically going across your body constantly. And so, defensemen nowadays are versatile in that they can do it, but I also wanted to see Miro Heiskanen kind of like live freely offensively because I think in his defensive pairings, he's had to have defense on his mind more than offense. So I wanted to basically see him cook.
Yeah.
And that said, Thomas Harley is emerging as a top tier defenseman. So, them together, Harley's only going to get better on the back line. So, I mean, the future's bright. I think Harley's 22. And the thing that Stars fans need to know is that Harley's a restricted free agent at the end of this year. So he's going to get a very nice payday and well-deserved.
Yeah. Speaking about, Tanev coming in and kind of those pairings and kind of figuring out where guys slot and them getting back into, I think, maybe a better position that we've kind of talked about, not kind of an awkward spot. Where do you still see there being a weakness? Is it in a certain line? Is it in between the pipes with the goalies? If the Stars needed to get better in one area, where do you see that area being?
So I'm a big Jake Oettinger guy, but I'll be the first to raise my hand. Like last night, I didn't think he played exceptionally well. Didn't have a lot of targets on him, and that's tough for a goalie. You almost want to have work when you're a goalie, get you in the game mode a little bit more. So I think Jake Oettinger has to return to his elite form, which I think he has as far as being a top 5-6 goalie in the league. And goalies can win you games like that. The other worry that I have, and I think Tanev helps, is physicality in the playoffs. The rink shrinks. And you look at the past Stanley Cup winners, Las Vegas, Colorado, Tampa. And there's no coincidence that those teams went over the top when they picked up more physical defensemen and forwards. So the rink shrinks in the playoffs. The physicality ramps up, so to speak. And we saw the Stars, albeit in the Western Conference Finals, so it was a great run, but it felt as though they got pushed around a little bit and they were very hesitant in the defensive zone because they knew the hits were coming, and that led to turnovers, which Vegas exploited. So I'm still a little worried about the overall physicality when it comes to the playoffs. But depth to me is stronger than it ever has been as far as in the forwards and as far as the defense. So depth is taken care of, and that was a problem in the past. So I would say goaltending and then ramping up their physicality.
What do you think has struggled, or what do you think has made it a struggle this season for Oettinger in particular? Because, I mean, it felt like this team was settled when you had Oettinger. You saw him as a young buck out there, and you were like, man, this dude's incredible. And he's had some struggles this year. Like, what do you attribute those to, if there is something that you could point to in particular?
I think he had an injury that, did sideline him for a while, and Scott Wedgwood did come in and play pretty well in a backup role, assuming the starter role. I think he's recovered from that. I just think goalies can go through funks. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that is look at the leading goalie and what we consider, myself and my co-host Sean Shapiro, the best goalie in the world, in Connor Hellebuck. A few years back, I think it was 2019, he's having the same season that Jake Oettinger did. And now he's one of the best goalies in the world. So goalies go through funks, and the good ones know how to get out of the funk. And, you look at the goalie in Florida. Signed for $10 million a year and was an absolute disaster. Last year in the playoffs, all of a sudden, best goalie ever. They go to the Cup final, and he's returned to form this year. So it's one of those things when you get a hot goalie, you have to ride him. And right now, Jake Oettinger, absolutely, struggling at times, but you do see those flashes of that elite goalie coming back. So I think it's just going to be reps. And here's a theory, too, that a lot of people aren't talking about.
Okay.
Jake Oettinger was overworked last year. And so this year, the key term was load management. And I wonder if maybe he needs a little bit more playing time to work out the kinks. And actually, maybe Jake Oettinger is better when he's used more. Now, the goal was to have him fresh going into the playoffs. That goal will be accomplished. It's just a question of whether or not, Jake will rise to the old Jake Oettinger. But everything I've seen, Reggie, I've scouted this guy since he was at Boston University in Hockey East. I think, he's won at every level he's been at. So, this to me is just a little bit of an odd click, and that I think he can regain his form.
I asked you kind of to go on the negative side and talk about the weakness. Now on a positive note, if you had to kind of power rank, where would the Dallas Stars in their current form kind of fall in your power rankings when it comes to competing for a Stanley Cup?
As far as other teams?
Yes.
So I have them third in the Western Conference, and that's not going to be a popular. A lot of people have them as a top two team, and I understand that. I think when you look at the acquisitions that Las Vegas and Colorado made, the Vegas Golden Knights just pulled off amazing deals, somehow are remaining under the salary cap, and they're just all in. Colorado also went all in. To me, until you beat those two teams, which the Stars haven't been able to do as of yet, I think those teams have to go ahead of you. Okay. Do I think the Stars can beat them? Yes, but I think they have to prove it. So therefore, I think Las Vegas and Colorado are better right now. I think we'll see Colorado come out of the West because they're on a heater right now. And, there's no stopping Colorado. If the Stars could avoid Colorado in the first round, that's actually a good thing.
We're talking to Gavin Spittle. He's the host of the Spits and Suds podcast. You can get that podcast wherever you get your fine podcasts, particularly if you're a Stars fan. It's a must listen. And with that being the case, we're nearing the end of this regular season here. Stars obviously back in action tomorrow evening. What are you looking to see from this Stars squad in the near future and as they finish out this season to make you feel the most comfortable with them as they head into Stanley Cup playoffs?
That's a really good question, Reggie, and I think the answer is kind of simple. You want to see them go on a winning streak. And then you want to see them with two big games against Winnipeg and against Colorado. I want to see the compete level up there. But consistency as far as winning, the NHL is so unique where one can be 8, and I think parity is at an all-time high in this league. So it's just get in and go from there. But when it comes to the Stars, I want to see a consistency level as far as go on a nice winning streak heading in, or at least playing real well. And, that in the past, they've shown they're like a Six Flags ride where it's like, okay, what team's going to show up, especially in the first period. But they have improved that. I thought the other night against Arizona, I didn't think they played bad in the first period, but boy, in the second period, that's been their period all year. They just came out flying, and they were putting on a show. And when they put on a show, they're one of the best teams in the NHL. But my only fear is that at times they've become one-dimensional. And I say that because a team like Vegas, for instance, they can beat you with goaltending. They can beat you with some of the best defensemen in the league. They can outscore you. And then it comes to Stars, and it's like speed and skill. But what if someone shuts down and neutralizes that speed? Then what? So I'd like to see a little bit more diversity in the game, which actually they've been showing lately, which is really nice. They put some very nice defensive performances together, and I think Tanev has certainly helped that. So consistency and diversity, and you know what? They can compete for this cup. They have the talent to do it. There's no doubt. It's just you got to beat those teams that have proven it.
And how much does the return of Sagan and Nels Lundqvist help in that as they came back from injury?
Man, I'll tell you, Sagan was a big boost to that Duchesne Marchment line. Matt Duchesne was a little snake bitten as far as scoring goals, had some opportunities, some good saves, but he just wasn't putting the puck in the net. And that line was kind of slumping a little bit, and they just emerged the other night. So a healthy Sagan's great. The thing that people have to understand about Tyler Seguin is that a few years ago, he became a very good two-way player. And what that means is he's very good both offensively and defensively. Similar to basketball, guys, we'd like to see Luka Doncic play a little bit better defensively at times.
Oh, Luka strays in the pot, and in the hockey segment, Luka's catching strays.
There you go. But defensively, Tyler Seguin has become a very good defensive forward, very good at back checking. So that line of Marchment, Seguin, and Duchesne are very good defensively as well. So good to have him back. I thought Nils Lundqvist had his best game the other night. I thought he was very confident with the puck, assisted on 2 goals. I think he's one of those guys. You're going to need more than 6 defensemen in the playoffs. So I'm glad that he's playing. I'm glad that they're continuing to give him a shot, because this is a player that the Stars spent a first-round draft pick on. So, it'd be good to see him come around.
And last one for me here, what is one player that maybe we haven't talked about or people aren't talking about that they should keep their eye on? And then what is one player that you think needs to step it up a little bit outside of Oettinger?
All right, good question. Wyatt Johnston. We talk about him. Hard to believe he's younger than Logan Stankoven, who everyone's talking about. I can't remember him making 4 mistakes in his 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is just the model of consistency. He's a skinny guy, but man, does he use his weight well. His positioning is always there. The puck always finds them. He's a really good passer, very good defenseman, getting better in the face-off dot. Wyatt Johnston makes people on the ice better, and it's hard to believe at only 20 years old. The person that I want to see more out of is Miro Heiskanen. You paid him a lot of money. Very good defenseman. I want an elite defenseman in this upcoming playoffs. We saw it a few years ago when they went on that cup run in the bubble. Miro was so good, unstoppable at times. So he's a very good defenseman, but I think he has another level that I'm hoping he can get to.
It's our guy, Gavin Spittle. You can catch him on the Spits and Suds podcast. I don't think I've called you Gavin this many times in the last year. Appreciate you stopping by, talking a little bit of Stars hockey with us, and hopefully they get a win, stretch the win streak to 3 tomorrow.
Let's do it.
Man, if it wasn't thunderstorming, I'd be in studio hanging with you guys. Thank you so much.